When you need the skinny on what goes down in the New York City Council, there's only one man who can bring you the inside scoop. Councilman Frank Morano, giving you the whole story right here on the Arthur Idala Power Hour.
Well, when Frank Morano was just merely Frank Morano and not Councilman Frank Morano, he always had a very powerful opinion of himself. I believe when he wrote the introduction to his song, to his show, he referred to himself as Staten Island's favorite son. Now, I'm unaware of any competition that was held that anointed him Staten Island's favorite son. He then took Enter Sandman. As a New York Mets fan, he takes the song that is most affiliated with the greatest closer of all time, the only baseball player to go into the Hall of Fame unanimously, the New York Yankees' great Mariano Rivera. And I wonder if Frank Morano has any issues with Mariano Rivera going into the Baseball Hall of Fame as the only unanimous vote getter. Ladies and gentlemen, let's ask him ourselves at 6:21 on this Monday evening. Welcome back to the show, Councilman Morano.
Well, it is wonderful to be here, Arthur. Obviously, I don't have an issue with Mariano Rivera going into the Hall of Fame. And, I always thought there were a couple of other instances of people that I think should have been unanimous selections that one or two people didn't vote for. I think one may have even been Derek Jeter. And I always thought that was silly. I certainly wouldn't have an issue with Rivera going in unanimously. But I will remind you, as a Met fan, that was also... Enter Sandman was also Billy Wagner, the great closer for the Astros and the Mets. That was his theme song that he would go out to the mound with. And he continued to use the song when he joined the Mets in 2006. Started with the Astros. I think it was suggested to him by Jeff Bagwell, and then he kept using it when he joined the Mets in 2006.
They asked at a public forum I was at, they asked Mariano, why did he pick that song? And he said, I didn't pick that song. He goes, I would never pick that song. I would pick probably some sort of a gospel song or something church-related, because the people who don't know, Mariano Rivera literally carries a Bible with him, I think, almost at all times. When I see him, either he or his wife are clutching a Bible. I just want to go back to my first comment. Was there any vote that formally designated you as Staten Island's favorite son?
Yeah, I know you're very big, and your buddy Shepard Smith are always trying to poo-poo that distinction.
No, I'm not poo-pooing. I'm just trying to figure out how we got there. That's all.
It is probably. Well, here's what happened. Right?
Is it your mother? I mean, it's okay.
No, she's never said that, right? But here's what happened: is when I grew up on Staten Island, or became an adult, I should say, on Staten Island, there were really three distinct groups of Staten Islanders. There's people like my parents who moved there from somewhere else, mostly Brooklyn, but now reside on Staten Island. Then there were folks that were born on Staten Island, but whose parents were born there, whose grandparents were born there, and whose great-great-grandchildren will also be Staten Islanders. And then there's most of my peer group, which are folks that were born on Staten Island, and then as soon as they were old enough to move elsewhere, they moved elsewhere. Some of them moved back to Brooklyn, some of them moved to Jersey, some of them moved to Pennsylvania, and then there's me, the only, or if not literally the only, statistically close to the only, first-generation native Staten Islander who has chosen to remain on Staten Island. So, by extension, because I have made that choice, that's why I claim that moniker of Staten Island's favorite
Very
son.
well.
When you met Howard Stern in the Hamptons, did you run up to him and question him about how he got that title, King of All Media? Did you ask him if there was some vote?
I know. It's so funny. I did, because he said he had the #1 radio show. He had a best-selling book, and his television show was often in the top 10. So because he did all three, he was able to claim the mantle. And he had a movie. So, I mean, he really touched on all media, whereas there are many great folks from Staten Island. Not too many people could say they have a TV show, a radio show, a book, a movie. That's a little unique, no?
Well, that you got me on that.
I mean, would you say Sal Albany is is Staten Island's favorite son.
I love Sal, as you know, but he moved there.
5 minutes ago.
8 years ago. 8 years ago, he moved to Staten Island. So no, he would not. And when he ran for office on city council, he did not get elected, unlike the people in Brooklyn who voted for him repeatedly.
And unlike the people in Staten Island who wisely voted for Frank Morano. Before we talk about very local issues, I know I have a lot of commitments over the weekends. Were you able to look at any of the Charlie Kirk memorial yesterday?
I didn't see a second of it, honestly. I heard from a lot of people that saw it that it was very moving. In reading the papers today, I read some remarks from President Trump and from Tucker Carlson, from Erica Kirk. I'm sorry I didn't get to see it, but no, I didn't see it.
It was very well choreographed. His wife was definitely the best one to speak. And I understand the President of the United States, and then the respect that comes with that. But I would have had his wife speak last. I mean, it's her loss. It's her husband. And it would have been fine. But, President Trump spoke last. And how about this? When the president came on the screen, Marianne said, I doubt he's going to speak for that long. I said 45 minutes. Now, I was off. I think it was 40. But, he did a very good job honoring Charlie Kirk. He just, in those moments of kind of love, and we all know how Charlie felt about the Lord and Jesus, you maybe would have left the negativity on the sidelines. But that's what makes, Donald Trump. Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to the air. What does Frank Morano say about that?
Well, look, I heard what you've been saying not only tonight but previously, and I think you are very accurate. It's not an issue of the First Amendment because you have a right to say whatever you want about Charlie Kirk and his assassin, no matter how inaccurate it is. And I thought what Jimmy Kimmel said was just ridiculous. It was not only untrue, it was unfunny. But you don't have a right to have a television show. When I was on radio and when I was on the station a couple of dial positions down, owned by John Catsimatidis, I knew that if I said something that he didn't like, he would have no qualms about pulling me off the air. So when you're in the marketplace of ideas, and you work in the private sector, you're beholden to what ownership wants. And if certain affiliates, in Sinclair affiliates or others, don't want to take your show because the things that you're saying are so reprehensible, then I don't blame a network for suspending them. But I don't like to see anybody lose their job for something that they see to say on TV or radio. In the case of Jimmy Kimmel, personally, I've never found him funny when he's doing his own show. When he's done interviews with people like Howard Stern and others, I have found him amusing. When he used to co-host Win Ben Stein's Money, I thought he did an adequate job. I've never gotten much of a laugh out of his own show. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if I like it or not. We live in an era where if you get fired because you say something or do something that's objectionable, there are 10,000 other places that people can find your content. Look, Bill Maher got fired 24 years to the day by ABC and replaced by Jimmy Kimmel, actually, 24 years to the day that Jimmy Kimmel was suspended. And what happened? Bill Maher went to HBO, and now he's bigger than ever. He's won awards. He's probably making more money. He's being watched by millions each week. Tucker Carlson, same thing. He was fired by Fox News. He's now got one of the most watched podcasts in the world. Your friend and colleague, Megyn Kelly, fired because of the Diana Ross comments and a variety of other things. She now is bigger than ever on her own independent service. Bill O'Reilly, same thing. So if people actually want to hear and see Jimmy Kimmel, even if he does get fired by ABC, he could either go to another network, and there's plenty of opportunity to do that, especially now with streaming, or launch his own platform as Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, and Bill O'Reilly have.
The truth of it is what you just said. If you're really good and you really have a following today, nowadays it's so simple. I asked Arthur Rivera recently, what's the he's 82, I think, yeah. I said, what's the biggest change you've seen in the media? And he just pointed to my hand where I held a phone. He's like, you don't need to walk around with a big camera like I did for 45, 50 years. And because these people are doing these shows where they're getting millions of listeners and viewers and millions of dollars, and they're doing it from like a desk in a basement somewhere. So that is a big deal. But let me ask him, Frank, because you are a historical individual. Am I correct when I say the likes of Johnny Carson and then, Letterman and Leno who followed, like they would make jokes, but they didn't make political statements. What these guys do nowadays, Colbert and Kimmel in particular, and Seth Meyers to some degree, they're not making joke. When Kimmel, the words he got fired for, he wasn't trying to make people laugh. He was making a political statement, and I don't remember the predecessors in late night TV doing that. Am I wrong?
Well, certainly you're not wrong when it comes to Carson. He made fun of everybody, right? He made fun of Joe Biden. He made fun of Ronald Reagan, right? I don't
think Carson made fun of Joe Biden. Did he when he was a senator?
Did. He did, yeah. Okay. Remember the plagiarism scandal in 1988? Carson had a good time with that. That's for sure. But or in 87. But when Biden was running for president in the 88 presidential election, Leno was an equal opportunity joker and interviewer. He would have Bill Clinton on his show and John McCain. He would have all these guys. Letterman was that way until I would say the last 5 or 6 years that he was on the air. Once he got into this war with Sarah Palin, and once he was enveloped in his own controversies in terms of having relationships with coworkers, he made a sharp leftward turn, and it seemed like, and I think he's talked about this with Alec Baldwin on his podcast, with on other shows as well, that he seems like he kind of got frustrated with people on the other side of the political spectrum. And he still made jokes, but they were very much kind of one-sided jokes. But certainly for the bulk of his career, both on NBC and CBS, he was an equal opportunity host of guests from both sides and an equal opportunity jokester, I would say, irrespective of what his politics might have been.
So there was a big announcement today about autism and what research is looking into. Now, the New York Times is reporting that although Trump is talking about pregnant women taking Tylenol as a cause for autism, the New York Times is reporting that those studies are inconclusive. Frank Morano, what say you?
Well, so you want me to take the President of the United States and his whole Department of Health and Human Services and all the research that they've done, and the New York Times and whoever they spoke to and all the research they've done, and say, all right, none of those guys know what they're talking about. No. I have no idea. I mean, I'm going to look at what the report says, but certainly after hearing what the president said, and I did hear his comments, I haven't read the report yet. If my wife Rachel was with child again, I would not be encouraging her to take Tylenol.
Well, so you did have an answer. What do you mean?
Well, but I don't know about the science. It could be all wet for all I know.
I didn't ask you about the science. All I said was what say you? Now, if you threw me that question when you were a host, I would be like, you know what, Frank? I'm not smart enough to know one way or the other, but I am smart enough to know I am so happy that the President of the United States is having a press conference specifically focused on this topic because it is a huge issue in the United States of America, and at least somebody seems to be putting in the elbow grease that needs to be there to come to a conclusion on what we could do to make life better for these 1 out of 31 kids who are being diagnosed with autism. That's what my answer would be if it was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, it's funny, it's like, just in terms of of my answer to that, I'm reminded of the character Remo in Casino, who says towards the end, why take a chance? If there's a chance that Tylenol may make it more likely that a child's autistic, why take a chance? Stay away from Tylenol. But, it's funny, when I was still on the air, I did a number of segments on autism from a variety of different perspectives. And there was there was a terrific guest from Oakland. I'll give you her information if you want. Her name's Jill Exsher. And basically, she's one of the leading autism advocates in the whole country. And she did not like a lot of what RFK Jr. had been saying with respect to a possible link between certain vaccines or certain other things in autism. But she did appreciate the emphasis and the spotlight that he was placing on it. And basically, I think for a lot of people that may doubt the conclusion of Tylenol and autism, I think a lot of people probably feel the way that you do, which is they're happy that it's getting some attention paid to it.
I felt the same way many years ago when, of course, I wasn't happy that Ronald Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but having watched my poor grandmother, my dad's mom, suffer through it, it was wonderful that it was getting that kind of attention. And let's face it, once the president starts talking about it, the money starts rolling in for the research on that as well. Another topic near and dear to the heart of Councilman Frank Morano, because it really hits home. Modelo beer is no longer the number one beer in the United States of America. It has been surpassed by Michelob Ultra. Frank Morano, what say you?
I heard you say that. I think, look, I understand why people drink Michelob Ultra, people that are very physically fit. The 3 times that I've seen Joe Piscopo have a beer, it's always been a Michelob Ultra, and you know what the great shape Joe Piscopo was in.
Yes.
But I think it's awful. I mean, it tastes terrible. I thought Bud Light. I think Bud Light tastes awful. Somehow they found a way to take an awful tasting beer, Bud Light, and make it taste even worse and more watered down. And that's what Michelob Ultra is. I think it's horrible. I mean, if you're looking for a flavorful beer experience, that's not what I would try. But if you're looking for something to hold and make sure you don't get fat, then maybe it's for you. Clearly you're doing something right.
Lou Idala is very proud of you. That he is on the same page with you. I will tell you, if I'm going to go with the light beer thing and I'm at a bar, I will ask for an Amstel Light. I think that is the most flavorful of the 99 calories that never tasted so imported or something like that, whatever the commercial jingle was. I will read to you, Eric Adams mysteriously MIA from weekend events as rumors swirl. He'll drop New York City re-election bid. Quote, looks like he's thrown in the towel. Before we ask Councilman Morano about this, we need to do a public disclosure statement that Mr. Morano is vociferously, with his heart and every passion in his body, supporting Mr. Curtis Sliwa for mayor of the city of New York.
Yeah, well, that's true. I don't know that I necessarily buy any of that, meaning that he's dropping out because he was elsewhere. He was. I heard him on with our friend Sid Rosenberg this morning, along with Randy Mastro. I think they were on Fox together as well, and he sounded very much like a candidate to me. So I don't know that I buy into that at all. I'm not one of these guys that's urging everybody or anybody to drop out. These people have qualified for the ballot. They've asked people to give them money, and I'm not encouraging anybody to drop out. The more voices and the more choices that New Yorkers have, the better. Let the people decide. Eric Adams should stay in if that's what he wants to do. I take him at his word. The 9 times that he said it, that he's staying in.
You are would know better than I about the status of his matching funds from the Campaign Finance Board. Isn't that he has not been awarded them? Isn't that accurate?
That's right. So far, not. I think the next disbursement is right around October 9th. I think that's the next threshold when they'll be making a determination. And
they're not giving it to him, though, because of those charges that were against him that have since been dropped?
So I can't, I'm the last guy that's going to be a spokesman for the Campaign Finance Board because they've made a lot of decisions that I have not agreed with over the years. But yes, I think there's the belief on the part of the Campaign Finance Board that a lot of the contributions that he's claiming as being matchable aren't exactly on the up and up. And I think it has to do with the straw donors, which was part of the reason that he ended up getting indicted. But look, if you're Eric Adams, and they may be right for all we know, but if you're Eric Adams, I can understand why he's pretty peeved at that, because here he hasn't been convicted of anything, and yet the Campaign Finance Board is determining that not only are they the prosecutor, but they're the jury and the judge, and they're determining, they're prosecuting the case, and they're the ones making the determination. So they may be right, but I have a big problem with how the CFB does business. And I am actually going to be issuing or submitting legislation to kind of rein in the CFB a little bit and give a little bit more oversight. And this is something that I have a feeling that candidates like John Liu, who was also wronged by the Campaign Finance Board in 2013, and Eric Adams and others will all be able to get behind.
From the New York Times, the wary, warming alliance of Ocasio-Cortez and Mamdani. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez was, quote, the big sister Zohran Mamdani hoped to impress. He seemed inexperienced to her. Now they're the faces of a political movement. Republican councilman from Staten Island, Frank Morano. That's the great read of the New York Times. It says it'll take 9 minutes to read. So for me, it's probably 18 minutes. I haven't read it yet. I just saw it in preparation for being on the air with you. But Mamdani and AOC, what are you thinking?
Well, it's not exactly a shock to me that they're getting along well. They come from the same pool politically, basically the DSA pool of the Democratic Party, that wing of the Democratic Party. And within the Democratic Party now, you really have two main branches. I realize there are a lot of different, it's a big tent and it's an oversimplification, but you have the extreme left, the Democratic Socialists of America and their allies, and then you have everybody else, the more establishment Democrats, people like Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, and people who may be liberal, but not necessarily wanting to defund the police and have city-owned grocery stores and things like that, and they don't think that arresting Benjamin Netanyahu should be a priority. So AOC, since her election 7 years ago, she's really become a rock star on the leftward part of the Democratic Party, and in a lot of ways, the relationship that she has with Zohran Mamdani now, it's not dissimilar from the one that AOC herself developed with Bernie Sanders, where Bernie Sanders was kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the left-wing Democratic Party movement. Now, even though she's still a relatively young woman, AOC has assumed that role. So given kind of where AOC is politically and where Mamdani is politically, I would certainly imagine that he's her enthusiastic choice over more moderate candidates like Adams and Cuomo.
So if you were looking at your crystal ball regarding Ocasio-Cortez, the young Congresswoman, where do you see her? What's her next move? I mean, she's too restless to stay put.
Yeah, well, so I don't have any inside information about this, but everybody's been saying that she's going to be running in 2028, either for U.S. Senate or for president. I had a meeting today with a very prominent Democratic elected official in New York City, and I asked him about the rumors, because I heard a rumor about that Schumer was going to not run for re-election in 2028, because they thought that this person said that Schumer doesn't want to end his career with a loss. And I was very surprised that this person told me that if Schumer runs for re-election in 28, he loses. So it's clear that even Schumer, who's tried to keep up with where the fulcrum of the Democratic Party is now out of step with the modern day Democrats. Even though he's kind of backed away from being such an enthusiastic Israel supporter, I think all of the things that he said about the Palestinians and about Israel, they don't jive with where the Democratic Party is today. Certainly not the energy of the Democratic primary voter. So if I'm betting, I think AOC runs for Senate in 28.
Okay, I think that's a reasonable wager. Tell me what's going on inside the city council.
Quite a bit. So we have our stated meeting on Thursday, and you might have seen the editorial in the Daily News today, where the speaker and her team are trying to push in all these rules changes on the way out the door. I don't like these rules changes one bit, and I'm going to be voting against them. And I was talking with some of my more progressive colleagues today, and a lot of them are not happy with them. So I don't know if these rules changes are going to pass, but I have a feeling that at Thursday's stated city council meeting, this is going to be one of those rare instances where you see people on the far right and people on the far left casting the same vote. Will we be able to stop these rules changes? Quite frankly, I don't know, but I thought the Daily News made a pretty good case. If people didn't read that editorial, basically, the last major rules revision in 2014 took months of debate and public hearings, and this time we got a 141-page report 4 days ago, and leadership wants it passed in under a week with just 100 days left in their term. All these people that are pushing this are all term limited. That's no way to govern, and these changes are going to bind the next speaker of the city council, whoever that is, and the next council. Why not let them have a say in the rules they'll have to live under for the next 4 years? So the speaker wasn't forced to accept a rules package from her predecessor, and she shouldn't be doing the same thing to whoever takes over for her. So I really think that this is very problematic. It raises the number of signatures needed to force a bill out of committee. So those of the members like me and Bob Holden and Chris Marte that would would like to, and if he was in the city council, Eric Adams, that want to ban horse-drawn carriages in Central Park, we wouldn't be able to do a motion to discharge. It also strips members of the right to explain votes on land use items. It takes away a critical element of transparency, especially in my district where there are so many controversial zoning issues that are coming up. It shortens speaking time on the floor. It gives the presiding officer total control over extensions. It requires all legislative service requests to go through the legislative division, which is staffed by the speaker. So it allows them to slow down or bury bills the majority doesn't like. Now, I was elected as a legislator. I should be able to legislate, and these rules changes really take that away.
So what is the motivation behind someone who's leaving the city council to do this?
You know, I honestly don't know. I would tell you, I would give like a wink and a nod or kick you under the table if I did know the answer. I really don't know. I don't know why she's doing it. I'm sure there is a reason, but I honestly have no idea. I can't figure it out.
I got 2 minutes left. Manhattan will not get a casino as final proposal is voted down. Frank Morano, a big gambling guy himself, he's been down and out because of bad bets. That's
right. I lost $100 on the Mets yesterday. They can't even beat the Nationals. My goodness. Well, they can't beat anyone lately. So yeah, I am not in favor of a Manhattan casino. You know, traffic in Manhattan, even with congestion pricing, is already out of control. I really am not an advocate of increasing casino gambling in downstate New York, but that's what the people of New York voted for over my objection. So I think that the places to do it, the three places to do it that make the most sense, are the two places that already have something like a casino: Empire City in Yonkers, Resorts World at Aqueduct in Queens. And then the third location, I don't know. I mean, Coney Island does have so many similarities to Atlantic City, from the boardwalk and to the history, and the local council member there supports a casino. So I'm a big advocate for not shoving a casino down the throat of a community that doesn't want it, like they're trying to do in the Bronx at the Bally's Links. So if I had to pick a third location other than Aqueduct and Empire City, it would be the Coney at Coney Island.
All right.
I think Dominic Recchia, your friend Dominic Recchia, had a very good op-ed on that subject in the Daily News on Saturday, and he made a good case that it would be a positive for the community.
Sam Bolino, I need an extra minute because, you know, Frank, I know you said you didn't have time to watch the memorial, but you figured out a way to read the whole thing about the rules changes in the city council. You read in the Daily News and Recchia's thing. Like, how are you structuring your time? That your time management, that you're able to fit all of these, and you're at every fair event in your district. How are you pulling all of these off? It just happened.
I would have watched the Charlie Kirk thing, and
I know. Well, you're a father, a husband, a son, a brother.
I was at 6 different events yesterday. I just wasn't home. But you know, look, as far as the rules changes and the casino, that's my job, right? My job is to cast informed votes and have informed opinions.
I didn't ask you why you did it. I asked you how you did it.
I get up early. You know, I was up at 5 this morning catching up on these rules changes, and you know, I'm up early Saturday and Sunday, and I use that time before Carmine and Rachel are awake to go through the papers and the like.
Do you do any exercising?
Not as much as I would like to be doing.
That's not what I asked you. I said, do you do any?
No. Well, so I was on a really good path, and now that Carmine's schedule has changed a little bit, I am hoping to get back on a path to at least twice a week. But last week I missed entirely.
And what type of exercising
it's
are you doing?
Mostly the bike, mostly the stationary bike. I put on either your show or some other great talk radio programming, and I'll do 5, 6, 7, 10 miles on the stationary bike.
And do you ever set aside time for some personal grooming?
I had a shave today at a great barbershop in downtown, which is always empty. I don't know how they're staying in business. It's called Esquires of Wall Street. If anybody is up for a hot towel shave, old school straight edge razor, I highly recommend Steve at Esquires of Wall Street.
Now, do you go a couple of days without shaving before you go in there?
Yeah, what I've done, because I've had, as you know, the razor bump situation from time to time.
We're all aware of that.
Yeah, so I've now been doing once a week. I don't shave for a week, And then I will, whenever I'm downtown, I will go to Esquire's, which is right near City Hall, and go and get a shave.
And are there any complaints like the 5th day without shaving from either Rachel or Carmine about your face being a little scratchy?
No, Rachel loves it. She gets very, she likes the kind of
okay, easy. I mean, Ariana, she don't. Daddy, your face is scratchy. Your face is scratchy.
No, Carmine likes it too. They both like it.
All right. Well, I like it. With Frank, if they like it, then I like it as well. You have an anniversary right around here, no?
Yeah, that's right. 6 days from today. In 6 years. 6 years.
Wow.
I exceeded a lot of the betting line on that already.
Will you be on next Monday to talk about the anniversary festivities?
Absolutely. I just have to think of something to do first.
All right. Well, call me offline. All right, folks. You better tune in. Put it down on your calendar. Next Monday, we are going to hear about Rachel and Frank's 6th anniversary. I'm sure it is going to be an epic celebration. Mr. Morano, as always, the time flies by. You're a brilliant broadcaster. And so far, maybe you're exceeding that as a city council person. I'm sure your constituents are thrilled.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.
By the way, are you on the ballot? You are on the ballot.
Yes, my third election that will be in November. If people want to learn about why I'm running, what my platform is, or if they want to make a donation, they can go to moranoforcouncil.com. That's MORANO for council.com. Contributions are matched 8-1.